This slide deals with the rent, rates, taxes, repairs and insurance of the building. Now what happens is that, many a times, or not even many a times, it's almost the case with everyone. Whenever a person is carrying on a business or profession, then he would be using some kind of a building. Now that building which is used for the purpose of his business, now I'm specifically talking about the building which I use for the purpose of the business of the assessee. I'm not talking about the building which he might be using to let out or doing anything else with that. In those two cases, either the assessee could be the owner of the building, which means that he is actually owning this building, or he could have rented this building from someone else who is the owner. So think of it as an owner. What would happen? When I am an owner, I would have incurred the cost of such building to buy it out. But can I lease a building to myself? The answer is no. Therefore, no rent can be debited on notional basis. So if I am the owner of a building which I am using for the purpose of my business, then I cannot debit any rent. Of course, depreciation can be there, but rent cannot be debited on a notional basis. But one important thing that you need to know here is that if I am the owner of a building, there cannot be no tax under income from house property for this building which I am using for the purpose of my business and profession. Current repairs. So if suppose I incur any amount to repair this building, then I would be entitled to claim that as an expense. The third is taxes, rates. So if there are any taxes which are payable in respect of this building which I am bearing, whether it is in the form of a municipal tax, a local tax, a land revenue, these are mostly allowed on a payment basis, and this is dealt with in section 43B. So all the taxes etc. which I pay in respect of this building will be allowed as a deduction. However, certain conditions are there under 43B that I have to see in respect of these taxes. And the last one is insurance. If I am taking an insurance on this building for theft, fire or whatever, then even the insurance premium that I pay in respect of this will be allowed as a deduction. So these are the three expenses which I am allowed to claim if I am an owner of this building which I am using for the purpose of my business and profession. Now what happens in case I am a tenant? Obviously, if I have rented out a building, I am tenant, I am paying rent to the owner, whosoever is the owner. This rent will be allowed as a deduction to me. Second is revenue repairs, which means that if I am kind of incurring some expenditure on repair of this building to maintain it, to keep it in a proper fashion, that is allowed. If I am incurring a capital expenditure to make it even, instead of one building I am just creating another floor, that is not allowed if you are a tenant. Third is taxes, rates. Again, same as the owner. The only thing is these are allowed if these have to be borne by him. I mean, just because he is paying the taxes and rates and then recovering the money from the owner, these will not be allowed as a deduction. If you are paying it and not recovering it from someone else, you are bearing it, then you are allowed a deduction for this. And the last is insurance. Again, insurance is allowed as a deduction only when it is borne by the assessee.